If you are feeling burned out, if you've recently been laid off, if you're healing from a toxic job, or just ready for a more aligned life, this conversation is for you. My name is Marissa Price. I'm the co founder of the 2026 third annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, bringing together 28 incredible, dynamic Black women speakers to give us practical strategy, guidance, advice as we navigate these uncertain times. I'm also a healing practitioner. And yeah, if you are subscribed to my channel, Marissa Price Heals, please subscribe. Sharing really like practical, relatable advice on healing, how we move through toxic jobs to get to the other side. And so I'm so excited to have one of our incredible summit speakers here with me today of Holistic Manifesting, Dr. Jameelah Ra'oof. And I'll pass it over to her to introduce herself.
Well, hi. Yeah. Like she said before, this is Jameelah. One of the things that I primarily do in this space is run a YouTube channel called Holistic Manifesting. In that space, I discuss information about how manifesting in life is a holistic experience and its whole body, whole mind, and whole being. If you've seen the introduction and you've been anywhere near the content, you'll see that I talk about that a lot. And many of the themes that I have are generally centered around how we can create a more aligned experience in our life as opposed to kind of just going on autopilot and doing what we're told to do so often. I don't necessarily cater content directly to women, but of course, when you are a woman, you tend to bring in, because my perspective is from a woman, whether I say it or not, right? So that's the case. Much of my career has been spent in a higher ed space and technical spaces, and that's kind of still what I do now. A lot of consulting and a lot of what is it called? Research, I'll say that, in the higher ed space. So I know a lot about burnout. And then also too, I'll say this last thing because I try to be more personal in these types of settings. A divorced mother of two. And, instead of giving my resume, I give more of my personal background.
Yes.
So that's a lot too, where my perspective comes from when, manifesting the life we choose. It's not always an easy task to make that mindset shift. And I love to discuss those topics.
Thank you so much. Yes, I have the link to Jameelah's YouTube channel, so please subscribe. It's also in the description if you're watching the replay. But just the different topics that you talk about, they challenge me. So, which is one of the reasons I love your channel, right? I go on there when I need like that inspiration. I'm like, okay, let me find a video, because like the topics that you talk about are so relevant. They resonate so deeply with me as someone who is on this journey of really trying to get in alignment, right? Because I've been on this path, like you said, the path that we're told that we have to be on to like check the boxes. And over the past 3 years, I've had to like kind of shift to like, what do I actually want for my life? How can I bring this into alignment? And so, yeah, please subscribe. That's all I got to say. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation. Your session at the summit focuses on building an aligned career through manifestation. I do want to just mention like the amount of us, right, as Black women who have been pushed out of the workforce in one way or another over the past year and a few months. Over 600,000, I read. It's a lot of us experiencing kind of this disillusionment. And just like the power of manifestation in bringing your career into alignment. Anything you want to share around like why this is such an important topic right now, given what we're experiencing?
I've always had it in my mindset that the workforce was unpredictable and unstable. I was sort of raised in that mindset. Both my parents, they were kind of rebellious. They never had 9-to-5 jobs. And it was always a restaurant. We own a restaurant now. We own a clothing store now. We own it, and it was always hustle, hustle, hustle. So for me to get into the work environment, workspace, that wasn't something I did until I was I was in my 20s dabbling in it. And then like in my 30s, I started teaching, but I never really was consistent in the workplace. And so I never understood what people were talking about when they complained about the 9-to-5 and this and that, because I always found many other ways. I'm like, I'll teach over here part-time, I'll teach there. I never really had to sit in an environment. And so when I finally did that, I was like, I get it. I started working for higher ed, and what you might call an elite university. That's what they go by. And when I got into the space, there was so much toxic energy every single day with the way that people interacted, the way they talked to you, the expectations, and it was so unspoken sometimes. And I'm kind of like, I don't know how this works because I'm not a work person. I was like, I don't know what to do. And so that's when, for me, that topic became more important and more relevant, because I never saw it as something that was stable and something you can rely upon. So my mindset was sort of different in that way. So it's just so happened now with the way that I've always seen it kind of lines up with what so many women are experiencing in this space. And so I approached it from a way of, there's no company loyalty. There's no what they need over what I need. Like, I'm the center of my own experience. And if I walk into this environment and they're not, and it's not, I'm not able to extract what I need from it, then that means that I'm going to be looking at them. I'm going to be on LinkedIn going through those job links. And I had that bad for a lot of years. I'm like, nope, not doing it. But I finally understood that. And so I think that just that might be what it is that people see when they feel like that. But my perspective has always been, if you walk into something misaligned, give it a couple of months and you're going to be over it so fast. It doesn't matter how much money they're offering. It doesn't matter what they're, telling you that you're going to get on the other end. You got prestige at the very top. You're going to get this promotion, that one. If you start ignoring yourself, and if you start abandoning yourself in your needs, and if you don't know what those needs are yet until you're confronted with the unwanted in the environment, you're eventually going to get burned out, because you're not doing something from love. You're doing it from fear. And fear is very exhausting to operate in on a 9 to 5 daily basis,
Whew. Yes. Yes. This quote, I'm the center of my own experience. And you just mentioned fear. Anything that you want to share, because you talk so much about this on your channel, right? Shifting to something that you love to do versus this society has a great way of putting us into situations where it wants us to be fearful. So we just accept the first thing that comes along versus like kind of like vetting. Is this aligned with my values? Does this bring me joy? Right? All these different things that when we tap into our agency, we can bring into our lives in a more aligned way. But society likes to take us off track. Anything that you can share around how we can move to a place of love, joy versus fear, as it's so like heavily imposed on us so often?
Yes, I was just thinking about that when I was reading some of the questions that you sent over. I was like, man, that's a lot, because when I think about how deeply embedded it is in us to, if we don't have enough, or what if we can't make it, or what if we can't pay our bills, or what if we can't, it's so much stronger than the messages of, let's just see what'll happen. Go towards what you love, go towards what you enjoy, and then the doors will open up for you. And so when I think about fear more often, and like how it navigates us, to me, it's like a non-negotiable. It's like you can easily walk down into that direction and start moving into that space. But once you get there, it's going to be something that's going to burn you out at the end of the day, or it's going to be something that completely takes you off path so far that you're not going to be able to function in your most authentic version of yourself. And so while you know that you're being pushed in that direction, it's so hard to sort of pull back and say, even though this is the easy option, even though this is the low-hanging fruit, even though this is what's available to me, I know that I can't afford to step in this direction. And so I always say there's two kinds of fear that we can deal with. There's the fear of uncertainty, which is perfectly fine and perfectly healthy. And that's, you're uncertain about things. You go to a party you don't know people at, I went to a gala a couple of months ago. I was like, I don't know anybody here, and I'm showing up by myself. So there was a little bit of a fear inside of there, but you go ahead and do it anyway. And then there's the fear that comes from, what am I going to lose all the time? And if you're working from that place of what am I losing, then that's what you're ultimately going to be losing, is yourself, because there's no focus on you as a person and what your needs are and what your expectations are. It's all externally focused. It's like, the bills got to get paid. This is what's expected of me. I have this degree, so I should be working in this field. People are going to be asking me what I do, and I'm going to say, what? I'm a stay-at-home mom or something, but I have all this education. And so it's a lot of fear based on what you're losing as opposed to what you might gain. So whenever you find yourself confronted with the choices, you ask yourself, am I moving forward based on what I might gain from this situation? Or am I moving forward thinking about what I might lose? And what we really love, I find that we don't have to keep negotiating with ourselves for. So a lot of times I talk to people and they're not exactly sure how to know what they want because they've been told what they wanted for so long, and they find themselves in that little empty space. And I'm like, you know it when you walk up to it and you're not trying to convince yourself that you want it. when, when you're sitting there and
Wow.
you're vacillating in between, but it does have this, but it is remote, but it will, and I'm like, there's nothing I ever really did that I wanted in life that I had to sit there and convince myself that it was okay, that it was something that I wanted to do. And sometimes that did look like not having the credit card bills paid. And I had to reframe that, because that's getting to the meat of it. Because when I talk to people, they're like, we can talk, manifesting all day long, but how am I supposed to get over the stress and the anxiety that comes along with not being able to pay bills or not being able to take care of things that I'm used to being taken care of? And I came from a different background with that. It was always the roof over your head, electricity, water, food. And it was even sometimes maybe not gas. Do you really need to go somewhere today? And so I thought about what needs to happen and what are nice to haves. And I think about that all the time. So even if I pull myself back, and I've had to step away from positions before that wasn't working, and I looked at what I had in the bank, and I looked at how long it might take me to replace it. And I was like, so this is how long I can function on what has to be done. And sometimes that's all you have to move forward with. But the alternative to that is walking into something that's going to leave you right back where you started, and trying to figure out who you are, and trying to not abandon yourself, and trying to, not be burned out, and playing in institutions games when you ultimately don't get what you need out of it.
Thank you so much. What you said about losing yourself, right? I would love to ask more about that, like self-abandonment. In a lot of these roles that we're in, you mentioned trying to convince yourself when something's not aligned, and that kind of being like the initial, am I trying to convince myself that this is something I want? Because the thing that you actually want, you don't have to convince yourself, right? That's a sense of like ease that comes over you, as I found. Anything that you want to mention around self-abandonment? Because that's often like we're told that is the right way to abandon our needs once, and then we receive something at the end for that, like a reward or a gift. And that's again why I love your channel, because it's like challenging that very notion. Like, what if you took the steps to have your life in alignment now so that you can receive those things now, versus like what we're promised at the end, and it often never comes for a lot of us.
Exactly. No, I mean, I feel the same way. And I think about I think when you say that, I didn't even notice that, but I think a lot of my content is centered around self-abandonment and how to avoid it. And I think it's because I came from a background to where from a large family, a family that's very religious, and there are these expectations that's put on you about what your role is inside of the brood, in the group. It's like, this is what we do. And you get outside of this, people are not going to like you. You're going to feel this way. And so I did a lot of work with being able to walk on my own, and to be able to walk in the room of a family event, even if it's that, and know that everybody has been talking about me or saying certain things, and just be, you know what, I got to be okay with it. And so to me, that was like the training ground. I'm like, I go to a workplace and I'm like, you think you got something on me walking in my family space? You don't. And I'm like, that you have nothing on that. And I'm like, if I can walk in there and still be perfectly, hey, how y'all doing? How was your, whatever. I was like, so walking in here is the same difference. What do I ultimately gain when I'm saying that my well-being is not important? When I'm saying that it's okay for me to get to work at 6 a.m. and leave at 6 p.m. in the evening, right? Like, what am I ultimately gaining? And someone might say, oh, it's promotion. You might move up and then expand and grow. But on a deeper level, I always think like, what am I trying to get? What am I trying to get to? What am I trying to create? And so it's usually just more of the same of what you already have. It's, more money, and it's better purses, better shoes, better cars, better houses, right? And so if you can kind of embed in the process early on that I'm only going to move in a way that I'm aligned with, I'm only going to move in a way that I'm in environments that are looking out for my well-being and know that it's important, it's like you start building on that as opposed to building in the opposite direction. It's like you can get there a lot faster in many ways, but what you've created moving a lot faster is not even sustainable long term, and it's ultimately not going to be fulfilling. It's like there's a lot we can do. We can fully sacrifice ourselves. We can go into the environment. We can check all the boxes. We can, kiss up to all the right people. And I've seen this in so many environments. And, we can placate people for a while. I've worked next to women. And even when you're working at schools that are like in the top 50 in the country, you don't run into a lot of Black women in general, right? And I've been in those spaces to where they were sent in to sort of be like a secret agent to talk to you because the higher ups actually think that they have a better way of tapping into something and getting to know you and finding out what's happening in the environment, because it's like, well, you understand her, don't you? And so it's like they come to you, and like the way that I'm talking to you now and having a basic woman to woman regular conversation, you can't even get that level of authenticity out of them. And I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to like a performance or a wall. And I'm like, at the end of the day, how can she walk away and feel good about herself? And even if she's building something, look what it was built on. It's like, what do they call it? A house of cards.
Yes.
And I think and then the other part is when you realize how quickly you will be dismissed or pushed to the side in many of those environments that you dedicate yourself to. And I always tell people about this story. When I worked, this was the first time I worked in IT when I was like in my 20s for one of the colleges. And I used to be one of those people that ran around and fixed things at their computers. And there was this one lady I would see all the time, and I would talk to her because she was real smart, but she was real guarded. But she was always there. Always there. Her son used to get off of school and he was like 15 years old. He would come sit in her office in the afternoon. And I was like, she's going to be here till like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then like one week I came and she wasn't there anymore. And I was like, whatever happened? Her name was, I forget her name, but it was like a man's name, but she was a lady. And I was like, what happened to her? And they were like, oh, she had a stroke last week. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. Wow. Or whatever. And then do you know, like that was 1 week. The very next week, because I took equipment in and out of offices, her stuff, her boxes of things were sitting in the hallway on the floor.
Wow.
At the job. That taught me a lesson that I never had to learn anywhere else. I was like, she gave everything she had to this place, even lacking spending time with her son. He was even coming here to sit with her in the workplace. And when she's not here anymore, no one mentions her. They don't talk about her. I had to ask and see where she went. And then it's just like, oh, can you move so-and-so's computer in there? They're going to be moving into her office. And so it just taught me, like, through those types of experiences, like what you gain from completely giving yourself over to some of these environments. But I don't want to say that I don't think that it's a bad thing when you're in an environment that you love and you're appreciated and it's reciprocated, because even though a lot of people don't talk about it, I do know it exists, because I've weaseled my way into an environment like that a time or two. I actually believe I'm in one now, and to where people just respect you. They respect your work. They don't look for you. They just say, oh, we need to, oh, thank you. And they don't bother you. It's nothing. You don't need to be remote because it's more safe. It's not one of those situations, but until it's that thing, I think that a lot of rejection of those outside places has to happen. And it's scary to reject something that's going to pay the bills. And I've done it. And I know, I'm like, no, I can't put my daughters in after school daycare because then they're going to be away from me for 10 hours out of the day. And I've turned down those positions before. And I've sat at home with my little Toyota with no gas to put in it and told the girls, let's go, let's build a fort, It's not easy. But on the other side of that, it's so much better because you've not compromised who you are for the desires that you want in your life.
Wow. That is so powerful. And to your point about speed, right? That you, like, society will reward you if you go at this pace to, I think you mentioned like seeking validation externally too.
Yes.
Right. So you'll get these things at a very fast pace, but then you abandon yourself so often in the process, which is what I'm healing from. because I was going at that very fast pace.
Hmm.
And so, like, slowing down, you mentioned, is scary. The society often punishes us for
Hmm.
slowing down to like really sit and ask ourselves, is this in alignment with me
Hmm.
before I like make this decision? Um, how have you managed? You mentioned a little bit about it, to kind of like, I don't know, that pressure, if you have felt
Hmm.
that pressure before, to stay
Hmm.
committed to the alignment despite that external pressure to move very quickly towards something that isn't aligned.
Yes. Oh no, I felt it. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't like to say it, but if you're gonna say, oh, I could have overachiever stamped on my forehead, you know. I mean, PhD is the last of 5 degrees that I have.
Wow. Okay.
And you know, and so that is just, even when I was at home with my daughters, I was like, I'm behind. I gotta
Hmm.
do something. And that's kind of like where those degrees would come from. I'm like, well, if I'm not gonna be working, I need to go to school. And so it was always something like that. And so a lot of times I dealt with the pressure by just realizing that there was nothing to get to. And
Hmm.
that being able to just realize that society will tell you that there's always something that you should be grasping at. There's always something that you should be working for. And having achieved things so many times that everybody thought was like the creme de la creme. I mean, I can tell you by 27 years old, I had achieved my goal of being married. I had, one daughter out of the
Hmm.
oven, one inside the oven. I had, a really good position at one of the colleges working in IT. The husband I was with at the time, I mean, we were making around 60 something $1,000. And that was a lot of money for, because this is, what is it like? At this point, it's about 15 years ago in my life. That won't get you
Okay.
as far these days, but I mean, we were young. But I'll put it
Uh-huh.
this way, our mortgage was $900.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, for a 2,200 square foot house, and I'm not kidding you. And so we had 2 cars, and I mean, I say I did it because I was dragging them along. I'm like, we gotta do this. My daughter's got to be in a house by the time she's 1. Her birthday party's got to be in her own house, and I mean,
Hmm.
did it. But all of that pushing and huffing and puffing, there was nothing of any real quality being done underneath it. And so when I think about the pressure, I always think back to those times where I was letting the external pressure kind of push me into the direction of what I should be accomplishing, what I'm supposed to have, where I should be in life. And this is what everybody else is doing. When I let it push me in that direction, it never was a solid foundation. It never was the outcome that I wanted. So as I got older and I started doing things, and a lot of my time was at home, that was hard because a person like me, I wanted to be out there doing things, but I had 2 small children and I was determined to be a stay-at-home mom, even without a husband. I was like, hey, not being married is not going to rob me of that experience. I was like, even if we got to be broke, when kids are little, they don't know they're broke.
That's very true. Hmm.
They can't. You go to the Dollar Tree, you go like, you can pick 5 things, and you can
Oh,
pick five
yes.
things, and they are
Yes.
perfectly content. I mean, I'm telling you. And then I
Hmm.
realized homeschooling even improved that. I was like, wait, I ain't even got to leave the house. I was like, they can get up. I can teach online. It just, it all. And what I
Hmm.
realized during that time, it was like the external pressure was really just my own pressure, like mirrored out to me. It was like nobody was really paying attention to me. Nobody really cared what I was doing or accomplishing in life. Like there were no real eyes on me. It was just what I was feeling inside. And so everything on the outside was mirroring the pressure that I was putting on myself at the end of the day. And so when I realized that I was the one that was creating the pressure, I just I took it off myself. And I was like, you're the only one that cares. When people go to bed at night, they don't care what you've done or what you're doing. They don't care if you've accomplished anything. They don't care, how many things you scratched off your to-do list.
Hmm.
And so what I would do is just stay in the know of certain things. I'm like, well, if I can't work in the field, I can actually teach in the field. So I would just stay to where I was being well lubricated while I was not, you got to start up a car engine when it's not
Hmm.
being
Hmm.
used.
Yes.
That's kind of what I did. I just made sure that that was the case. And when it was time for me to get back out there into the world, it was like the doors opened for me. It wasn't even like I was like trying to convince people. I was at home and I was doing this, and like nobody even asked. I was so at ease, and my nervous system was so regulated that when I walked
Hmm.
into these places, they saw that I was not in a needy scarcity minded sort of energy, and
Wow.
they were hustling me down. Like the first position that I got was like one step away from a director at a university. And I was like, there's no way these people, and I got my little dress from the thrift store and I went to that interview. And I'm telling you, they hounded me down. I had 4 interviews and meet with the highest, this person, that person. I was like, I haven't worked in 4 years. These people really want me in there. And so I think sometimes we don't put enough energy into what's showing up in our best version of ourselves actually looks like on the other side. We think it's all accomplishment, what's on the resume, what's on the, and I'm like, how's that working for everybody? Everybody's resume I look at on LinkedIn and stuff is like out through the roof, and they
Yeah.
still have that little open to work thing in their picture. And it's because of that
Mm.
it doesn't matter. It's the energetic composition of who you are and what you're putting out there too that changes the way people approach you and what they offer you when you go into those environments.
Mm.
Changes
Wow.
what you have access to ultimately.
Changes what you have access to. Mm.
And the last thing I'll say is it also changes when you believe what you're looking for or what you think will fit your life is actually available to you. Because I think so many of us don't
Mhm.
believe that it's out there, so we kind of just crap on it. We like poo poo it, and we like, it doesn't exist. There's no way. We have to do this, and we have to bend. We have to contort ourselves. We have to. And I'm like, there's environments where that doesn't exist. But if you don't believe it exists, then there's nothing in you that's going to work towards it.
Wow. Wow. That because that is something we often hear. Dr. Kamani and I, the co-founder of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, people saying, right, all jobs are toxic. And so this is just
Mhm,
something that we have to put up with. And
mhm,
again, the society does a great job of like kind of like limiting our vision as if all jobs are
mhm,
toxic. We just have to like suffer, push through. But
mhm,
as you said, like once you adopt the belief that there is an environment that can be supportive and you're also worthy of that, you're also
mhm,
deserving of that,
mhm.
um, things start to align in a different way. It feels kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what the word, I don't think there is a word for it, but it's just kind of like this, like I always envision it like the bricks kind of like falling in place
Like
versus
kismet.
me like, yeah,
Yeah.
kismet. That's the perfect word. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Without the effort, like the
Oh,
strenuous effort
yes.
that we're taught we have to put into like bringing these things into our lives. Like you said, like
Mhm,
with the job opportunity, like people are naturally like drawn to you and attracted to you
mhm.
when you like tap into your full worth, right?
Yes. And and
Mm.
and when we're not in that full worth and we're in that scarcity energy, we may bring something in our lives, but it's going to be exactly in alignment with that energy that we're putting out there. And I think because it
Mm.
always seems so woo-woo to so many people that we don't
Mhm.
spend enough time in that space, we think it's like if my feet not on the pavement, getting it done, then it's just not going to get done. And I can honestly tell you, I come from a huge matriarchal family, and I watched my
Mhm.
mom do this for years, and my older sister do this for years, and people, connected to me, they do a lot of stuff, like busy, 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 right? But it's
Mhm.
almost like busy going in circles sometimes because the intentional action is not being tapped into. And I always say this, so I have this little thing that I share whenever I do workshops that I have it's called the manifesting trinity, right? It's like 3 parts to it. And one of the biggest parts of it is the nervous system regulation. To me, that's like your energetic composition. It's like that's when you
Mhm.
get to the place to where even though my life is hectic, I got to take 30 minutes in the evening, 15 minutes or whatever, and just breathe deeply. I might just be breathing shallow all day, and that's terrible for your well-being. And so breathe
Mhm.
deeply. Get into a space where even if my mind is racing and meditation is not something that I can latch on to as easy as other, but it works better over time. It's a practice and my mind is going on about everything. Be an observer of the thoughts that's going on in your mind. Disconnect yourself from being inside the minutia to sort of rising above it. So, like, yes, all these things have to get done, but like go off into that quiet space and regulate that nervous system. Someone asks you to do something at the end of the day during the week. It's like, girl, we're having happy hour, and you already know you've done, 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 done. And it's like be okay with saying no and retreating from things that are pulling you in too many directions, that's scattering your energy. And when you get to that place, then and only then has your energy settled enough and quieted enough that you're able to know what is the inspired action I should get into. Because before that, we're just getting into any action, any type of action that's getting our attention. It's like, I should do this. I'm on over here. I'm doing this. I want to work on this business plan. My homegirl says she want me to look at her business plan. And then I'm going to this business meeting tomorrow with these network meetings. Yeah, I done all of that. So I've been to so many networking, blah, 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 this and that, and conferences and stuff. But it's like I slowed down when I realized, I was like, it's not about how much, it's about what are those specific things that you're doing at the end of the day, because you can run yourself ragged. And so that's when the inspired action comes to you. And then the third part of that is making room for the things that you don't know and the things that are unseen. And to me, that's the area I call God energy. It's the part of it that we people call woo-wooers, like, oh, you can sit around and meditate all you want, it's not going to come to you. No, we already know there's inspired action that needs to happen. But if we actually really believe that there's this area of God energy, of a place where we don't have all the information, because where we're standing, we can't get the bird's eye view, then that means we don't run back into that space of messing up our nervous system and dysregulating ourselves in order to make something happen with busy energy. So it's like a cycle we get into. We start off with the nervous system regulation, and then we start, it opens us up to the inspired action. And then we sit back and leave space for that allowing, that receptivity, that God energy, where we don't have control in that space. And if we mess up, we go backwards, right? But if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, when we get to that place where we're just like, nothing's happening, then go right back to the nervous system regulation. And then from there, you'll know what needs to happen next. It's like a cycle you can keep running in your life in order to stay out of trouble, to stay out of that burnout space,
Thank you so much for that. Do you want to get to some comments? I see Twisted Baby Doll 85. Thank you. OMG, Jameelah, are you me? I had the same experience working in education, higher ed, and I am through. I guess
I will say I'm in higher ed right now, and it is a beautiful experience. Okay. And I was watching. It's been more than a year now. I've been peeking over corners, and I'm like, are you going to try me? Are you going to try me? And so what I say is, though, pay attention to the way that you're showing up in these environments and see what comes from that. Because this is the most beautiful higher ed experience that I think I've ever experienced in all of my career. And that's outside of teaching, because with teaching, you can be low, you can come in and get out, it's a little bit different. But like working in technology and stuff like that, it's been one of the best experiences I've ever had. And so I always say, pay attention to how you're showing up and like what you're expecting when you walk into the place.
Thank you for that.
And I don't have coworkers.
Oh,
what they call it, individual contributor. Yes, that's exactly what I am. And I was like, that exists? Didn't know it exists till I walked out of a previous toxic environment in higher ed. And I was waiting and waiting. And I was like, but you can bring in a little bit extra money, because I had another position, but I was doing contract work. And I was like, just stay and see, because I'm like, you want to give up that money? And it became only about the money. And that's when I should have walked my little behind out the door. But it became only about the money. And it got so bad towards the last 2 weeks that I wound up, quitting on a Wednesday and telling them it was a 2-day notice. Friday is my last day. And I put in two, vacation days for the last 2 days. And I was like, it got that rough. And I was like, when you've outgrown something and you're overstaying it. And it was about 9 to 10 months before I worked again. I took all of that time to recalibrate, to take inventory, and to ask myself, how did I wind up in a place like that? Like, what was my role that I was playing for that to play out the way it was? And when I look back, I can think of all the ways that I walked into the space and I was compromising my value. I was listening to people telling me, oh, this place is a wreck. You need to help them. They're beneath you. You need to show them. And I was buying into the talk, letting the manager pull me to the side to have conversations about what other people aren't doing. Like, I was dragged right into the chaos of it. And it was all because I was not grounded into what I wanted to receive from the experience. It was all external. It was like they think I did a good job. I'm doing like this. I got hired here. I had something to prove. It was so external. And so when I got out of there, I realized I was like, man, you made a lot of mistakes when you walked into that environment. And that's why you
Mhm.
matched the energy of it for the time that you did. But when you no longer match that energy, it's like it made my skin crawl to go back through the door. I was like, nah, I'm good.
Mm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Something's coming up. I'm trying to put words to it. But you mentioned like your external environment kind of like almost reflecting sometimes what's inside of you.
Oh, most definitely. Yes.
Can you
And
talk a
I
little bit
think
about that?
that
Because the wheels are turning. Mm-hmm.
okay, so when I first got on YouTube, I used to always look at the content that was popular because people always say, see what's relatable, what's relevant. And there was so much content based on they. And I didn't have a name for it, but I'm like, there's a lot of they content out there. And something about it just didn't resonate with me and sit fully with me because I always felt like I don't really have control over what they are doing, but I do have control over how I perceive the world and how I move through the world. And so if
Mm-hmm.
I go into an environment and say somebody's giving me a bad attitude or they're treating me a certain way, that may be the way that they're deciding to function. But if I play ball with it, that means I'm operating energetically on that level. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of like what I did. Like intellectually, I knew when I walked into that environment that a lot of these things were off. But spiritually, I had not been tested in those spaces. I had not gotten that little icky spirit of competition out of me. I always say I wasn't looking for competition, but if somebody started trying to show me, I'm like, oh, wait, I can do this job. You just don't know what I got inside of me,
Mm-hmm.
but there's
Mm-hmm.
none of that in me now. I don't even care. Just like there's none of it, but I knew these things intellectually, but spiritually I didn't. And so the fact that I was willing to compete with someone, I was willing to allow myself to have to prove things to other people, I was willing to abandon myself so easily, that means that this environment was just mirroring the areas on the inside of me that really needed the most work. And if we step into it from that space, then we take all our power back, because it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to give the power to all the external places and to give the power to the manager that's treating you like this. If you are energetically not playing ball with them, either you're going to be out of that door or they're going to be gone. It's going to be one or the other. Incompatible
Mm-hmm.
energy can't sit in the same space. It just doesn't work like that.
Wow. Wow. I got to put that in the chat. Incompatible energy
Can't
can't
reside in the same space.
can't
No.
reside in the same space. Wow.
This is why when you always hear women talk about this, they're like, oh, I decided to like take my fitness or wellness journey seriously. And I started eating better. I started going to the gym. I started drinking more water and doing all these things. And if there were a group of people who don't do that, it won't be long before that group of people is not their friends anymore, unless someone rises to their level. Because the only way to interact with them, you have to continuously bring yourself down to another frequency, a lower energy level, in order to interact with where they're at. It's rarely that you'll get around that group and they'll rise up to where you are when it comes to the way that you're operating. So when you go into that environment and you're up here and they're down here, if you decide not to play ball with it, something's going to occur energetically that's going to put you all in different spaces. And I've had this happen, even I'm talking about the experience that I have at the higher ed now. There's a lady that came to my office and introduced herself to me and was like, I do this, I do that. And I was like, I know this energy. And I was just sitting there going, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I know this energy. And I don't like it, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay. And I just didn't feed into anything that she was giving out. I didn't say I wanted to be a part of anything she was doing. I didn't treat her negatively. I didn't make her ideas seem like they were bad ideas. And I'm like, well, I'm happy you were able to find something that you really enjoy doing here. That's pretty cool. And she was like, oh, okay, well, okay, bye. And so I've not heard from her since. And matter of fact, I was going down the stairwell the other day about a couple of weeks ago, and I know she was avoiding me.
Mm.
And I gladly welcome being avoided. I do not mind. I don't have to be liked. I don't need anything from anybody. And I was just thinking to myself how we were repelling each other, although
Mm.
we were getting through this meeting that she set up for us to have together, but we were repelling each other. And I was like, I was like thinking about what the old me would have done. I said I would have played into that and be like, I can do this, I can do that. I'm like, I'm gonna show her that I can bring it like this and bring it like that, because she was on the side of, I've done this in my career and I've done this, and the faculty doesn't want to do this, and I did nothing. And what's so funny is that just being in the right energy and waiting for the right opportunity, something came up more recently that a project needed to be done. And I have skill sets out the wazoo because I've been in technology, sociology, I've been all over the board. And I wound up making these like job aid announcement things that were clickable, and they didn't even know you could do this in Word. I'm like, Word can do a lot of stuff. And I made these things, and like they were in complete shock and awe. And I'm like, see, sometimes we think we need to prove ourselves and we need to go insert ourselves into other people's projects and make everybody know that we're valuable. And you'll get the right opportunity will show up when you're just sitting in your little receptive energy at your computer going da 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 da, and something that's very easy for you to do will pop up, and you will never hear from those people again. They'll be like, oh, she the real deal. Yes, I am. And I reserve it for things that need my attention. I don't give an energy out everywhere you go. And so you'll start repelling people.
I see some comments in the chat. Jameelah, hello, says, wow, that hit me, Jameelah, energetic composition. And then a question from Michelle. Hey, Michelle, how to tap more into that energy when I can't see it? So that third part, right? We're taught that things have to be tangible or else we can't trust it. Anything that you want to share around that?
That's what I was saying, how you get back to there's a knowing that you have to have that it exists, because we already know that this happens in other places. I always tell people, if it's something as simple as like just a job interview, you go out for the job and you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what's happening with it. You're just like in the dark, and you're just like on the walking trail one day, and then you get a phone call and you're like, oh my God, yeah, that position. And it's just like, oh, we thought you were the best candidate. We want you for the job. Did you know your name was being spoken in that room? Did you know that they were speaking highly of you and lining the thing up for you before you made it there? They had no idea. You had no idea. You were just trusting that possibly you're having faith that you were possibly being spoke about really well in that environment. And because it seems more tangible, we can latch onto that idea a little bit more. But it's the same thing in life. It's like there's no way from this perspective that we have in its human experience that we have access to what this person over here is saying, this manager. Somebody's watching your account on LinkedIn. I've gotten a position like that. Somebody just showing up on LinkedIn was like, I was going through your stuff, and I'm like, oh, look, didn't even know. And literally, I've gotten more than one contract position like that, big time. And I know you were talking about contract stuff the other day, and I was thinking about how just being in that space brings those things towards you. And I was like, that's the part of it that you have to let go of. It's like forcing yourself not to do any action once you've done all of the inspired action. And when you're doing the action that's not necessary, because it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel good to take care of it. It feels exhausting. It feels like you're trying to force something into place. It feels like you're trying to make something happen, like you're going past that zone. And when that nervous system gets relaxed, you're going to feel that quicker than you ever did. You feel it instantly. Like I walk into an environment, I instantly feel, I'm just like, oh my God, these people are not right. I don't want this job. And I did that last year earlier. I didn't even have a position, didn't even have the luxury to say no, but I said no. I was like, this is not it. And I was like, I can feel they're annoying, and I don't want to be annoyed. There was nothing in me that would allow me to go towards that position. And the recruiter called me and everything and said, what is it? I was like, oh, I got offered another position I really want to take, and I shouldn't have fibbed like that, but I just wanted to get out of it. I didn't have any offers, and I said I got offered something else. And she's like, what are they offering you? We can match it. Even that didn't budge me, because I was like, there's no way. I can feel that this is not it. And so you get into the place where that nervous system is relaxed well enough to where the inspired action is the only thing you want to do. And when you're trusting, and then you get nervous and you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't done anything in a week. Like, oh my God, I don't know what to do next. And you start feeling that cortisol rise, and that's when you go right back to the nervous system regulation. You do the deep breathing. you do the visualization, you do the gratitude journaling, you get into the space where you realize life is so much bigger than these things that's been shoved down our throats to make it seem like if you don't have this, it's the end of the world. Your career is not like this, it's the end of the world. When you get into that space, those things become very small. And so while you know you got to take care of yourself, you're only going to want to do it in an aligned way.
Ooh, thank you so much. And I see Lavendula says so many gems in this combo. Agreed. So thank you so much. I do see something I wanted to get to. Ashley Crease, hello. Wow, she was discarded. That's terrible. The woman that you talked
The
about.
woman,
Right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so often jobs will do that to us. We pour even
Mm-hmm.
more of ourselves than we have to give into the
Mm-hmm.
roles, into the titles, the positions, seeking this like stamp of approval, this external
Mm-hmm.
validation. And then when something happens to us, right, our body breaks down from overextending ourselves. They don't even care
No,
about our well-being, right?
they'll mention you in the weekly meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really like the focus of the summit too, for us to see ourselves as separate from a job, a
Mm-hmm.
title, a role, and to
Mm-hmm.
view ourselves as like fully sovereign,
Yes.
worthy human beings outside of anything that we do for other people, right?
Yes.
Which is a radical concept given like the messages we receive, how we're
Yeah.
socialized. Yes. So just want to say
That
that.
there's no value until you are doing something or you are in service or you are a function for somebody else. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very common message.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Celeste says that's how they keep you in the rat race. If you don't want the prizes, and the system can't control you as much.
Yep. So true.
Ooh. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you for
Yes.
that.
I mean,
Ooh.
that's essentially what it is. If you switch your perspective into what's important to you and what's not, um, you can't get sucked in. Even praise is like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, what is your praise? It's thanks. Thanks is like
Mm-hmm.
it meant something at a time in my life, but at this point, it's like, so now it's just icing on the cake. I'm not like rude about it and say, oh, I don't care if it's like, oh, thanks. But even internally, it doesn't even shift anything in me anymore when somebody says, oh, that's amazing. Did you do that or whatever? Oh, that's such a good idea. And it's just like, oh, okay, thanks. Because that version of me that they're getting access to, it's what's embodied at this point. So really, they're just getting a moment to tap into what's already there. Like that's the way
Mm-hmm.
you're operating all the time. That's just who you are.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask because you did mention this. Manifestation can sometimes feel in the term woo woo is
Yeah.
like used, right? Which kind of like makes us like not believe, right?
Hmm.
But so many things are operating in the unseen. But for someone who feels like it is abstract,
Hmm.
I guess how you can approach manifestation in a way that feels like this is something that I can do to bring into my life, something that
Hmm.
feels aligned versus it feeling so far out there and like I
Yeah.
can't reach it, so I'm just gonna like downplay it, its power. And I guess your journey, if you've had any of
Yeah.
those like doubts around manifestation in working through that, anything that you want to share.
That's and so also too on the channel, I offer one-on-one consultation. So I work with quite a bit of women with
Mm-hmm.
doing I call it accountability work and like energetic blocks. And so we kind of work through that. And that's one of the biggest things. It's trying to tap into the area of someone else. And I didn't realize how hard this was going to be. I was like, okay, yeah, we can get in there. We can do some accountability. We can get, but and sometimes if it veers off into the therapy space, I'm like, oh, you ever thought about seeing a therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a whole different approach you take in that space. But a lot of times, much of it is trying to get people to believe in something that they don't have access to, something that they've never experienced on their own, and something that they really don't have a record of. And that's kind of like what our brains are always, it's trying to find something that's like a pattern recognition. And once it recognizes the pattern, then it's happy and it's comfortable and it just wants to walk down that pattern. So that's why we find ourselves when we make a few changes and something doesn't stick, or a way of thinking or way of being doesn't stick, it's because the patterns are a lot stronger and they're much more comfortable for our brain. And so what we have to essentially do is reprogram ourselves into the mindset that it is possible. And I was just telling someone this the other day, is like you have to find inspiration in other people's stories, even if it's not your own story yet. So even if you have, and that's what people, sometimes it's hard for people to understand, because even if you look at my content, it's not really in my wheelhouse, like to represent as Black women content. Although I'm a Black woman, so that is the content that you're looking at. You can't get around that. But a lot of the times too is that I understand also too, even though it's not top of mind for me, how important it is for other people who've been programmed into limited concepts based on their race or ethnicity or their gender or their background, to see someone else occupying that space in order to be inspired and believe that it's available to them. And a lot of people think, well, everybody can just be motivated by other human beings, but it's not always that simple, and it's not that easy for it to show up that way. And so a lot of times it takes looking around and looking in places for other people who meet those standards that you want to live. And even if it's somebody who you feel like looks like you or come from the same background as you. And I think that's why we're so inspired by people that come from the same type of humble beginnings that we come from often. And they believe in themselves enough, even when there was nothing around them that says to keep believing, and they keep going and towards that direction. I think if you start consuming so much content and being around so many environments where people are telling you that it's not possible, that it's a dead end, that what you're looking for in those environments is not available to you because of something that you can't change, like your race. Like my skin is brown, like true brown, like I can't walk in an environment and try to be anything else. So it's like, if you're telling me I'm limited by that, then it's like, I may as well just throw the towel in, right? And so it's like, that's kind of like what the energy turns into. So it's also not allowing ourselves to get into that place to where we're only taking in information that's telling us what we actually desire is not available to us. Because it's like the brain wants confirmation. It doesn't care whether it's confirmation that's good for you or bad for you. It just wants that pattern to be recognized. And it feels so good. Like if you're feeling a certain way and you're just like, this is crappy, everybody's doing this, and you get online and somebody's, amening it and giving you information about what the world is doing to you, it feels very validating. It almost feels like vindication at the end of the day, because you're just like, well, I know I'm not a bad person and I'm not crazy. Look what they're experiencing it too. And I'm always saying there's a space for that energy too, so that you can realize, okay, well, maybe I'm not crazy, but then move away from it quickly. Move away and move towards a space that's feeding you information that's going to tell you what you're looking for and what you want to create is possible. And if one person is doing it, they're just a human being, then you can do it too. And I always say this, and I know that sounds lofty to a lot of people. Like if somebody's creating a life, I always tell people this, I was homeschooling and being a stay-at-home mom when I didn't even have any examples of that. It wasn't something I grew up in. My older siblings were homeschooled a little while when they were very, very young. It wasn't something that I actually knew. Maybe that seed was planted, but I'm like, there's a big age difference. But maybe it was planted, but it wasn't even something I'd even thought was available to me, being a divorced mom. But then I was like, you know what? One foot in front of the other. Let's just try this. What do I have to lose? And another thing I'll say too, we think sometimes hitting rock bottom is the most awful place to be. And it's really not. It's really where all the work gets done. Because when I was in that space where I got the house back after the divorce and the mortgage hadn't been paid on it for a year, and it was like, here, now, I was handed a house that I was expected to fail in, kept that house another decade after that before I sold it. But, walking into that space and then not having all these tools, I felt like there was nothing to lose. I was like, where am I going to drop down to? I've been living with family for the past year while going through divorce. I've been going from pillar to post. I don't have a car. I've been doing all. So in my mind, it was like, what else? Where can I fall to now? So a lot of times we don't even use our rock bottoms well. We just want to get out of it so bad. And we're just like, I can't be here. I can't be here. And we go walk into something else that's not aligned just to get out of that rock bottom space. And I'm like, no, let it work for you. Let it make you fearless, because you'll see that, hey, I'm still breathing. I'm still here. And like, I didn't die. Like those little numbers on the screen that says that I'm in debt, they didn't come choke me in the middle of the night. They're just numbers on the screen. You know what I mean? It's like it didn't have the power that I thought it had over me. And It's like when we experience those moments where everything, we get the layoff, we get, the
Mhm.
layoff, maybe the divorce at the same time, maybe the kids are leaving, whatever it is,
Mhm.
use that time to find alignment. Because when things get knocked out of your life and get burned away, that is a perfect opportunity to build a beautiful foundation and go from scratch. And so many times we just want to rush out of it. It's like, no, I don't like this space. I don't like the bottom. I don't like not having everything that I always had. I don't like it. And we just want to hustle our way out of it. And then we wind up walking into something else that's not aligned with where we want to go, just to get out of that space. And then we find ourselves still being in an environment or a space that we just don't like. But we've maintained the credit card bills. We've maintained the car that is too expensive for our income or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
sometimes we got to just let the chips fall and see what happens.
Whew, you said something that's still sitting with me. We're not using our rock bottoms well.
No, we're not. We're trying to get out of them.
Wow. Wow. Because sometimes and often it can feel like punishment, right?
Yes.
When we
Hmm.
hit that point. And then we kind of spiral down like a shame spiral, right?
Yes.
Which leaves us kind of feeling stuck.
Yes.
How can we reframe that as an opportunity, as you said, to build a foundation that is actually aligned?
Yes.
Like,
It's a
because that is the work.
transition. And I was
Mm.
talking about this the other day in another video. And when you say that, it comes to mind. It's a transitional period. And I think a lot of times we see the rock bottom as a destination. We see it as like uh, defining our whole entire existence. And we look at it as, and I talk to women all the time, everything in my life has accumulated to this point, and this is the totality of it. And I'm like, you can't really believe that. You can't really believe that this particular moment is the totality of what you have created in your life. And I'm like, it's literally a transition. And I think a lot of times when we're transitioning from one moment or one space to the next, the transitions don't feel solid. There's nothing really grounded in them to land upon but ourselves. There's nothing external to land on. There's nothing external to sort of hold on to. And so, when it popped up on the screen, I was like, oh, wait, somebody said what I said, but I think it's a quote
That was
from me.
funny.
And I think that's one of the things that we have to pay close attention to is like when we're going through transition, it's not supposed to feel solid. It's not supposed to feel concrete like the job did or the marriage did or knowing that the children needed to be picked up from school and dropped off and not being an empty nester did. It's not supposed to feel that solid. It's supposed to feel the way that it does. And I think I compared it to like yoga because I started doing yoga like way back in the day, and it was something I really loved. And I remember this instructor always talking about moving through transitions, and she would bring us through transitions extremely slowly. And it was sort of annoying. And she was like, pay attention to your temperament when I'm bringing you through this transition much slower than what you want to go through. And she says, and you know what? When you pull yourself out of this transition, when you finally get to land on the other side of it, she was like, think about the way that you were feeling and how badly you just wanted to get to a solid space again and how you missed the entire journey of that whole transition. Like, what was your body doing in that moment? You probably couldn't tell me. What was the movement like? What did it feel like in your hips? What did it feel like in your heart? It's like none of that has been tapped into because all it was just like, she said downward facing dog, and I know next is going to be a chaturanga. When we getting there,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like how we handle those moments. And so it's like missing the journey.
Missing the journey. Wow.
Mhm.
Ooh. That is so powerful. Just to read some comments in the chat. Mara says, something I'm learning, rushing and wanting to
Mhm.
control everything. Yes, me too. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Yes, like, why am I not there yet? It's frustrating.
And you know what
Yes.
I also learned from yoga too? This was the same
Hmm.
instructor that used to say this. She said, we're going to sit in this position. She says, I'm not going to tell you how long to stay. She says, stay until you don't want to get out of it anymore. She says, stay until you're not fighting to get out of it. And that stuck with me. This was more than a decade ago. She says, when
Hmm.
you're fighting to get out of it, that means that I know this now. I mean, she didn't say this, but I remember thinking about this later. You're in the same energetic composition of that fight. And anything that you create after that is going to be along the same lines of that energy. And until you release that fight and release that energy that's resistant in you to what's actually occurring, that's not accepting and acknowledging what you're actually sitting in, you're going to be at the same frequency and create from that frequency. So that rushed, that aggravated energy, that frustrated energy, if you move from one thing to the next and that energy is still with you, you got to take you wherever you go. And it's the same with everything, right? I know we've all heard that phrase before. You take you with you everywhere
Mhm.
you go.
Mhm.
And so if you moving from a bad relationship and it's like they were like this, they did this to me, they did that, and I just don't want anybody like this anymore, whatever. And then you go jump into something new with that energy. You think you're gonna have a positive experience talking about what you don't want all the time and what nobody, how they're not gonna try you and what they're not gonna do to you. It's gonna be along the same lines. And that's why you see people repeating relationship patterns so much. It's like, why do I
Mhm.
always run into men who do this, who treat me this way? Because when you moved away from it, you didn't allow the transition long enough to sort of pay attention to the journey. It's like, that I reflect, that I take inventory, that I sit with it and think about what was my role in this process. Have I
Mhm.
learned everything I'm supposed to learn from this particular process? Because when you actually have and you're doing that work, you don't want to rush to the new thing. It's not even that important to you. It's like
Mhm.
it's a welcome thing and you're happy about it and it's kind of cool. But even when it's something you really need, you're going to find yourself feeling like, I know these bills got to get paid and I know this stuff has to get done, but I'm not even like anxious about it. Shouldn't I be anxious? I've had so many moments in my life and I'm like, girl, you should be anxious. Do you see that bank account? And but something came up. It's like you can't even force yourself to get into that space because you sit back, you took inventory, you realized you did everything you were supposed to do. And the most important thing to you was your well being and realizing, what did I do in this situation that brought me to that space? And how can I not duplicate that experience? So while it took me 10 months to move on and get a new position, that was the best spent 10 months I ever had with not working whatsoever. That was it was the best. And just doing a little contract work here and there, because I was like, if I go get into something now, I'm still angry at that workplace. I'm still mad. I feel like
Mhm.
they did something to me.
Mhm.
And I had to really get
Mhm.
to the place where I realized, I was like, oh no, I was participating. Like, yeah, the environment sucked. It was bad. It was rough, right? But I was
Mhm.
definitely participating, whether I was, choosing to be on the receptive end of it,
Mhm.
taking it home with me in the evening, I was participating. And until we accept those parts of it, it's really hard to create something new.
Mm. Thank you so much. I do want to ask. So, Jameelah is one of our incredible summit speakers. Saturday, May 2nd. Her session is coming up. Any teasers that you want to give folks who might be watching about your session, manifesting an aligned career with ease?
Um, no, I don't have any teasers.
Okay.
I think this episode was a teaser.
Yes, absolutely.
Because yeah, I put some things together, but every time I move around in life and something else shows up, I'm like, oh yeah, we should talk about that. So what I would say is, just know that my goal is that you walk away with the mindset of feeling powerful and being tapped into your own agency and um desiring sort of that autonomous approach to your life and not seeing a career as the 90% portion of your life, sort of seeing it as that's just another aspect of who I am. It's not the whole version of me. And maybe even looking at maybe other things I want to focus my attention on in life. Like, I go to work, but
Mhm.
I care way more about the stuff I do on YouTube and writing books and all that kind of stuff and doing workshops with women than, like, I don't talk about work at home. I talk about work when I'm doing a video, but nothing from that place comes up. And I think that that's what I want women to walk away with, just the idea of that you can shrink that space and still allow it to be a function in your life. You can still extract what you need from the environment, and they can, they pay they extract the skill set from you, and it doesn't have to be your whole identity. You don't have to base all of your self-worth and self-esteem into how these people treat you and how they feel about you in this environment.
Mhm. Well, I'm so excited. And I agree. This entire conversation
Mhm.
was a teaser, right? And so I'm so
Yeah.
excited about all the things that you have to share with us at the summit. I want to ask, you mentioned a lot about kind of like tuning into your body signals. And that's the focus of my
Mhm.
work is somatic healing re-embodiment.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
For people who may be new to this, because the society again likes to disconnect us from our
Mhm.
body signals. Any like practical, like easy steps that you can recommend to get in touch with this environment feels off, this person feels
Mhm.
off, I need to go a different direction if you've been disconnected from your body for maybe a long time.
Um, I think that goes back to just because what the disconnection is happening, it's on the nervous system regulation level. And
Hmm.
so it's like you're almost experiencing life as like just walking through the motions. Like you're just pushing this avatar, is what I like to call it, into different environments. You're getting it dressed in the morning, you're taking care of it, you're giving it a shower, and then you're bringing yourself in the environment. But all of your life is being lived like only through your mental, like only through
Hmm.
what you're thinking about all day. And then there's no mind body connection happening at any time. And
Right.
so for me, when I get into that space, it's always about the deep breaths. It's always about the moment and breathing in so deeply. And I'll do the 4 count and then exhale for 8 count. It's like you cannot be externally focused when you're doing those deep meditating breath. So like breath work for me has been huge with getting back in touch with my body. And like when you start to feel your whole existence and your body being a part of that, and not just like your brain functions and what you have to do and what you didn't do and what you got to go do, is like that's when you're able to tap into that space of, I feel this is off. I feel this is, because what it is it's a lack of self-trust too. And that's another end of it I was thinking about, just not being able to trust yourself, because we've been in so many environments where we've been told this is what's more important for you to do, this is what you should be working on, this is,
Hmm.
all the shoulds in society. That's kind of where we spend a lot of our time. But when you
Right.
start doing this work, the expectation that you should have for yourself is that the shoulds don't really exist anymore. And every time you find yourself bumping up against something that's just like, what should I be doing? That's when you already know, let me step back and go ahead and do some breathing exercises, because I'm going to fall back into the same patterns again, worrying about what should I be doing. And it's so easy to fall into it when the external is not looking pretty. So easy, because like you said, it feels like a punishment. And you're just like, so
Hmm.
I must have made the wrong decision. I must not know what's important to me. I must not know what I need. And I think that's like the worst thing that we can tell ourselves. How can anybody or any entity on the outside of us tell us what we need more than what we can know what we need? It's like I'm living in this body every day. I'm Jameelah. Every single day I get up and go to work. I was raised, in the environments that she was raised in. I have her DNA. How can
Hmm.
someone else on the outside possibly know what should be better for me? I mean, barring past being a child. And
Hmm.
so we have to remember that when I fine tune my machine, nobody else will be able to run it like I can run it, because it's me.
Oof.
Mhm.
Powerful, powerful. I want to ask how people can stay connected with you. First, I want
Oh,
to thank you so much for coming onto my channel, sharing everything that you've shared.
mhm.
Um, this has been such a powerful conversation. But yes, how people can stay connected with you online and how people can work with you.
Yes, I love this conversation. I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I made notes. I didn't even look at the notes. And see, that's how it happens, huh? Yes. So if you, like you said before, the link is going to be shared, Holistic Manifesting. I do most of the work that I do on YouTube. And then from YouTube, I have like a store there where you can sign up for one-on-one sessions
Okay.
or see the workshop that I do these workshops like every 2 to 3 months, to where we do visualization and do grounding activities. And it's only 7 women. I keep it very small because
Mhm.
it's virtual. And I don't feel like we can actually get to doing some deep work if it's more people than that. And then you can, get the opportunity to meet with like-hearted and like-minded people. And that's always fun. And so I have those links in the bio on my page. And then also to comments under the videos. And I also have my email address there. You can
Okay.
always contact me. And I think the email address I use for this one is yeah, I can't even remember. Yeah, because I'm like, which one do I use for this? I think it's Dr. Yeah, I think it's Dr. Jameelah Ra'oof at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Wonderful.
sure. But
Yes.
yeah,
Everything
whichever
on
one
here,
is
you'll
in
see.
my yeah, everything is in my description on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I see this last comment from Celeste. Exactly, shrink the role of work in your life in its exchange of labor for money. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Yes.
It's exact. That's
Yes.
we've been tricked into believing that it was our whole worth and value, and not
Mm.
just women. I think that's a
Mhm.
societal thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And once you just you
Absolutely.
treat it that way, you get into a sweet spot. Mhm.
Well, thank you so much again for being an amazing guest, sharing everything that you shared tonight. Thank y'all so much for being in the chat, sharing things. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share this video so that it gets to more people. And then be lurking. I just caught up from coming in late. This was wonderful. Thanks. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. And again, please register for the third annual 2026 Job
Yeah.
Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women coming up online May 1st through the 3rd. Jameelah is one of our incredible summit speakers, so I'm so excited to hear her session on Saturday, May 2nd. And the link to register is scrolling here on the screen and as well as the description section. So with that, I want to say have a great night, y'all. Until next time, thank you for the hearts, Michelle.
Mm.
And yes, y'all, appreciate you. Bye. Thank you.